So let's start this webinar. Welcome to the Talk Teams webinar. It's designed to show you some of the ways in which you can communicate with other colleagues at this time, which is particularly useful when most of us are working remotely. So we'll be having a look at what's going on in the Teams page, having conversations or posts or chats with teams or with individuals. You'll be able to see the activity within Teams. I'm having an issue with Teams meetings at the moment, so I've got a bit of a backup. It's not ideal, I'm afraid, but I've got a bit of a backup to show you the Teams meetings. Calling, sharing, audio, video files, we'll be having a look at all of those this afternoon. So this is great, like I say, particularly when you're working from home, instead of shouting across the office, Alison, where's so-and-so, you can either give them a call on Teams or have a little chat on Teams. So let's get started. Now, Teams is actually part of your Office 365 account. It's an app within your Office 365 account. I've already logged into Office 365 just to save a little bit of time. And then from the Office 365 desktop, I can simply click on Teams to open it. So as the name suggests, while that's opening for us, the Teams app allows you to work together with your colleagues and maybe some guest users as well. I'll show you how you can add guest users in to collaborate on things like chats, team or private chats, meetings, calls, screen sharing. You can even record your conversations and meetings if you want to, and work collaboratively on files, so you can have two, three people editing a file at the same time. Now, the benefit of using Teams is that because it's a cloud-based product, as long as you've got Wi-Fi and a device and a web browser, that's it. You can start using Teams at any time, any place, anywhere. You can download Teams onto your iPad, onto your phone. You can have it on your PC and or your desktop. You can have it on lots of different devices, so you can use it anytime, any place, anywhere. So now that we've got Teams open, I just want to give you a little bit of a tour of the screen, just so that you can see exactly what's going on. So across the top of the screen, we have our button to, if I wanted to switch back to maybe a Word app, I can switch to any of the apps in Office 365 or go back to my Office 365 desktop. If there's something that I'm looking for, I can use the search command across the top, and it shows me that I'm logged in as Pac-Man today. So I'm not logged in as a real person, it's just a training account. We have this side panel down the left-hand side of the screen that displays and allows you to jump between the different elements of Teams quite quickly. So you can just switch from Teams to chat and so on. Each of the activities that you go into then has a sub-panel. So if I've gone into chat, I can either see the people that I've been chatting with recently or have a look at the contacts that I've set up on chat. Then whatever you select in this panel, the content of it will be displayed at the right-hand side. So I've not had any conversations at all at the moment with Guybrush. But that's simply how how Teams works and how you navigate within Teams. What I would suggest if you're using Teams on a daily basis is that you download the desktop app. It doesn't take you that long to open up a web browser, go to your Office 365 account, log in, click Teams, and you're straight in. However, if you download the Teams app, which is just in the bottom left corner of your side panel, just right down at the bottom there, download the desktop app, and what will happen is Microsoft will install that then into your startup menu. So when you switch your PC on in the morning and you log on, Teams will open up straight away. So you don't even have to open up a web browser, you don't need to log in, you're straight in and can start using Teams immediately. Once you've downloaded it, as I mentioned, please feel free to download it to all your devices, phones. You can download it to your iPads or any tablets that you might have. So the idea of Teams, let's go back to Teams here. The idea of Teams is so that you can create groups of people that work together within your organisation. Now, one person might appear in many teams, so I have access to the marketing team, and I also have access to the Smart Style team. It's nice to know that when you're working in teams, you only see what you've got permission to use. So within this implementation of teams, within this organisation, if you like, there'll be lots and lots of teams in there, but I only see the ones that I'm a member of. So you don't see the cookie jar and see the cookies in it, but can't get your hand in. You only see what you have permission to work with. If you click a team, all it does is simply expands or collapses the content below it. And the content that sits below a team is called a channel. So below the marketing team, we have a general channel and an ideas channel. And if you think about channels a little bit like folders that you'd use to organise your team activities. So your team might work on different projects or activities, and you'd have a channel for each of them. And at the right-hand side of each of the channels, you can see the content. In order for you to create a channel or a team, you're going to need permission by the team's administrator. So it is very much permissions based. You only see what you can work with, and if there's any actions that you want to perform, if you can't see that action, then you just don't get to see it. When you're working within each channel, so I've got the ideas channel open, running across the top, there's different content that you can have in each of them. So your posts are just your quick conversations that you have with your team members. You can upload files to share with your team members, or even create wiki pages. Wiki being the Hawaiian term for quick. So it's like a quick web page for you to create, but post is your default one. So the reason the permissions, and a lot of organisations lock down the permissions as to who can and who can't create teams, is just to keep the system and the application nice and neat, so there's not lots of repetition, different people creating the same thing but with a slightly different name, and it just keeps it all swish and organised. So I am going to start by showing you how to create a team, because if you're just starting up, you may have permission to do this. So select Teams at the left-hand side, and at the bottom of the sub-panel, I have a link at the bottom there to join or create a team. It comes up and it asks me what I want to do. I can create a team, I can join a team with a code, and on your system, you should have a third option to join join a public team. I don't want to join a team with a code, I want to create my own. So I'm going to simply click create a team, and I can use an existing team as a starting point, so create from an existing team, but I'm going to build my team from scratch. So what about the permissions? Who do you want to be able to join this team? Well, I'm happy for anybody can join the team. I will set up some members, but it will be a public team and anybody can join it. I'm just going to give my team a name. And it's a good idea to put a brief description in, just to let the people who are using the team know the purpose for it. So what type of information should they be storing and sharing in here? You put a better description in than that. And the description is optional, so you don't need to put that in there. So after a second or two, very nice these teams, it gives you all these glory once you've done something, you've completed. Oh, there's a few people saying that they can't see my screen. Is that right? Can you just let me know, can you see my screen? It should be sharing. I think it is sharing. Sorry to interrupt. Oh, you can see, that's okay. So going back, we've created a team, we gave it a name, and we put a description in. I now need to add some members to the training team, and I can do this now or I can do it later, but I will put some members in. So the first person I'm going to add in is Lara Croft, and because Teams knows who the contacts are within the organisation, just typing a little bit of information is enough, and select the contact, add them in, and continue. Now if I can just point you up at the top here, it says start typing a name. You can also add people outside your organisation as guests by typing their email address. So if this training team that I'm creating in the background is also going to allow maybe subcontractors that you might be working with or freelancers, then you can add them in as team members. So if I add in my Microsoft account, oops, and there we go, add in, and just continue to add the members as you go along. When you're done, you can click close. So we've now created a team called Training Team, and by default, Teams gives you a new channel underneath called General. The members of the team, you can manage those at any time, and you can create your own channels to start working, as long as you've got permission to do so, of course. So I want to have a look at the members of this team. So I'll point into Teams, as is standard within OneDrive, SharePoint, Teams. Anytime you see 3 dots, ellipsis, it means there's more options to choose from. So if I go into more options and manage team, now you should be able to do this whether you have permission to add members or not, purely and simply because if you need something changing in here, you might want to know who the owner is to go to them and ask them. But you might want to also know who the members are so that you know exactly who you're sharing with. From here, if you have permission, you can add members to your team. As it was before, add people who are in your organisation, or use email addresses to add guests, if you like, into your team. Add them in, and that's it. So the one channel that we had, called General, not really enough. I need some more channels or folders, if you like, in which to organise the activities for my team. So again, going to more options, I'm going to add a channel. Just like adding a team, you need to give it a name, like webinars, a description, and then your privacy. So standard, is this accessible to everybody in the team? Or is it private to specific people within the team? No, I want it everybody in the team. That's absolutely fine. And just if I tick the box here to automatically show this channel to everybody in the channels list and click add. You do sometimes find, I don't know if you can see there, it says one hidden channel in the background just while it's creating it. You may find that if somebody hasn't ticked that last box when they were creating the channel, that you see hidden channel, and you just need to go in and make sure it's not hidden anymore, so unhide it if you like. So as I mentioned, each channel, so let's have a look at our webinars channel, can have different content. So posts, great, we need those. Files, yes, I'm definitely going to need to post files on here and share them with my team. I can have wiki pages, and you can also add in your own content. So just click on the plus sign and add in little apps to include on your top bar. I will say it will give us things in here like Word and PowerPoint and Excel to add as tabs. This particular channel has only just been created and there's no files in there at the moment. So if I went to add Excel in, it wouldn't let me because I don't have any Excel files in here at the moment. Once you've added a tab, you may decide that you don't want it, and you can simply get rid of it if you don't need it. So selecting Wiki, use the drop down arrow, and I'm just going to remove it. I don't think this particular team would find them useful, so let's remove it from there. It doesn't do any harm if you leave it, you just won't use it, but just to keep things tidy. And you can always go back and add it in later. Similarly, if I've got a channel that I no longer need, or if it was created in error, I can use the drop down and delete the channel if you have permission to do so, or the team itself and everything that sits below it, and delete the team. You will get a notification saying, are you sure you want to delete the team and all your files and all your posts and everything else that's in there? And it's up to you then if you choose yes. Notifications. So when you're working with Outlook, I'm sure you get notifications pop up when you receive a new email message, and you can do exactly the same thing in Teams. So when you first open up Teams, you will probably get, when it's opened up for the first time, it will probably ask you, do you want to set up notifications? And you generally, yes or no. You might have even passed that screen without noticing it, but you can always turn them on later. So going back to my webinars team, in my webinars channel, using the drop down arrow, I'm going to have a look at the channel notifications. So notifications are when anything happens in here. So Teams is saying, do you want to know about all posts? Yes, I'd like to know about all posts. And like you get on a mobile phone, you can have a banner, which is like a little pop-up on your screen, and also it will display in your feed. I'll show you where that is in a second. Do you want to include all replies? Yes, why not? Let's have a look at all of those. What about channel mentions? And those of you that use social media and use the @ and a person's name to mention a person, do you want to be notified about those? Yes, I'll have those as well, and save. Over time, if you put notifications on everything, you do kind of get a bit inundated. So you may well decide later, actually, I'm sure I don't need all of those. Same action, go back to channel notifications and turn off what you don't need to be notified about. So I don't really need to know about replies. It's just the main posts that I need to be aware of. So where do they go? So we've said that we'd get banners. So you will get banners that pop up if somebody posts, sends a post or mentions you. And also you'll get activities. So if I have a look in our activities here, so this is focused on the content that's directly relevant to you and the notifications that you've set up. You'll also get notified about missed conversations, missed voicemails, missed calls. There's two different ways of displaying your activity. So you can either display your feeds or you can display your activity. So sent messages in here. Over time, your feeds will grow and grow and grow. You may decide that you want to filter that list. So I just want to know about missed calls. Using the filter button, again, more options. And I just want to see missed calls, which is taking the message away. I can clear that filter. And again, go back to switching between my activity and my feeds. So the activity section is just your notifications, excuse me, to let you know where things have gone on. So let's have a look at team conversations. So I'm going to just go back to Teams. And from the general channel within my training team, over at the right hand side, by default it will be displayed on posts. Excuse me, and simply at the bottom of the channel you can start a new conversation. So click and type. And this message is going to go to all the members of the team. There's a familiar little toolbar just underneath the post that you type in, so we can use that to apply different formats. So you can make your text bold, italic, underline, various different fonts. You can include attachments. You can also put little emojis on. You can if it works. Put a teddy bear. Add in GIFs. You can also add stickers, which are a bit bigger. You can use the Meet Now feature. We can also stream videos and add in little praise stickers like "You're awesome." Additional actions always in the 3 dots, the ellipsis. When you're finished, you can either at the end of your message just press enter, or at the right hand side the little arrow to send the message through. So everybody within the team will now be able to team training in the general channel, and everybody will see this. If you want to reply, I think there was a message here, so I can simply press reply and type. If you've sent a message in error, so I didn't mean to send that one, simply hover over the message and you get a little emoji list in the top corner, but also with more options, those 3 dots again. So I can just delete that message. I didn't mean to send that one. And if I change my mind again, I can always undo it. So the app mentions that we were talking about. Start with an @ sign and then start typing the person's name. So just type in an L. It's narrowed down that suggestion for me. And send that through. So quite straightforward when you're working with posts and replies. You can always go and add reactions to existing messages just by simply hovering over them and selecting the emoji that you want to respond with. And if the person has set up their notifications, they will get that in their activity if they don't happen to be looking at the feeds. Excuse me. So those are chats with all the members of the teams that we've got set up here. You may want to do individual chats, just a one-on-one conversation. So from here, from chat, I can either have a look at my recent chats or I can look at my contacts. If I have a look at my recent chats, I can simply select the person from the list who I want to chat with, start typing the message in, and then send it through. Now, in an actual working environment, as in using Teams on a day-to-day basis while we're on this lockdown, my recent list goes on and on and on and on. So actually finding somebody in this list is quite time consuming for me if I haven't spoken to them within the last probably 10-15 minutes. And that's why contacts comes in really handy, because you can set up contacts and add them into a group. So your contacts, first of all, will need a group to go into. So I've got a Friday update team. To create a group, just down at the bottom of your contacts list, create a new group, give it a name. So we'll stick with the training theme. And then sticking with the 3 dots, once you've got a group selected, you can add a contact to the group. And we'll put Super Mario in there. So using contacts then, you've got a smaller list, simply select the name of the person. And again, just start typing. Press enter and the chat's gone. Excuse me. Sometimes you might want to have a chat with more than one person. And when you're working with email messages, I know that you can use the shift key to select a group of emails to maybe delete them or move them using your shift key, or you can use your control key to pick individual ones. That doesn't work here. So I've used my control key there, and all it's done is dropped one person and selected the other. So just one person at a time. However, so I've selected Guybrush here. I do want to message Mario as well, and also maybe Lara, who I haven't added in yet as a contact. In the top right hand corner of the window, of the chat window, there's a little button to add people. Enter the name of the person, so let's put Mario in, add them in. And it would be the same again if you wanted to add a third person. So we've got Guybrush and Mario within this chat. Send the message, and there you go. They will appear as 2 people in the recents list as well, so it's like a half and half icon that you could reuse. With chat, there is a button as well up at the top of your screen which is just new chat. So if you were working in calls, for example, you don't have to go to chat and select the contact. You can just click new chat, enter the name of the person if you don't see them down here. Oops. And send the message. Lots of highs going around this afternoon, but it is very easy to do that, to type that in. So it is a good idea to set your contacts up. Your recent list is going to get fuller and fuller and fuller, and people will just disappear off. But please don't forget that you can use the add people if you're wanting to chat to multiple people. And that kind of takes me on to making calls. So I've got Lara Croft here, and I'm going to make a call to Lara. So simply select Lara either from contacts or recent. And rather than using the chat down at the bottom, I can do an audio call, or I can do a video call using the two buttons. So let's do an audio call. Okay, so this is calling Lara. And Lara has now answered. So just mute I've got another laptop at the side of me with Lara, and it's just the sound goes a bit haywire, so I've just muted Lara. This little toolbar that you see here, excuse me, you see this when you're doing an audio call, when you're doing a video call, and also when you're in meetings. So at any time you can display your webcam, turn your camera on and off. Now my webcam is already switched on in the GoToWebinar, so it won't allow me to switch it on in here either. If you need to, you could potentially just mute yourself. So maybe if your phone rings and you just need to say, can I call you back? You can mute yourself in the audio call or the video call and unmute when you're ready. You can also share your screen. So when you're sharing your screen, it's a good idea to have the files open, first of all, that you're wanting to share with the person or people. And you will get options in here to either share the file or to share your desktop. Again, my screen is already being shared in the GoToWebinar, so it's not going to allow me to do it in here, but you will have a screen share to share the whole desktop or an individual window. Just bear in mind, if you're sharing an individual window, for example, a PowerPoint presentation, that if you do something out of that presentation, then people are not going to see you, and they're just going to be saying, what are you doing? I can't see it. So it might be an idea to share your desktop, but then make sure you've closed anything that's personal, private, confidential. When you're sharing your screen, this little icon will have a cross through it. So to stop sharing, you would just click on the cross and stop sharing the screen, and that will allow the next person to share. Lara Croft, by the way, has exactly the same toolbar, so it doesn't matter whether you're making or receiving the call, the toolbar is exactly the same. I'm just going to stop sharing. You should also have a toolbar at the top of your screen where you can give control to other people on the call, and they'll have a toolbar at the top of the screen to request control. Moving around at the top of your screen should display that, but again, because I'm delivering a webinar, it's not giving me that toolbar to display. More actions. I was in a meeting earlier that was recorded, so it's quite an important meeting. So rather than everybody making copious notes, we just recorded it and we can go back and have a listen to it again at any time. You can put a call on hold. For example, the whole call is on hold now until you go and ahead and resume it. Maybe if you need to make or answer a call during the conversation. Other actions that you have in here. You can enter full screen mode or have a look at your device settings if maybe you're having a problem with your screen. If there's something, maybe some facts and figures that you're giving during your call, you can show your conversation screen. So if it was a monetary value, for example, and you can actually type that in the chat. Let's say we were talking and press enter to send. So the person at the other end will actually see that conversation. If they don't have the chat panel displayed, close out of this chat panel, the chat icon will have a little dot at the top of it to notify them. When you're in a call, quite often we should have invited so-and-so, so you can add participants at any time. Invite someone else to your call, press enter. and this is now calling Mario. It won't answer because he's not switched on. As you probably guessed, at the end of the call, you just hang up. There we go, leaving the call, hung up, and that's hung up on the other person as well. You can, if you want to, rate the quality, dismiss, or just simply continue working. The calls feature. So we started that audio video call using the chat feature. So we selected a person. You can also use the calls feature to start from here. So we have people that are added to speed dial. So speed dial, people who you would call on a regular basis. So we can add individuals as speed dial. You can also create new groups. So we've already got our training group and our Friday update team that we created within chat. To create a new group and add people in, and those will appear in our speed dial. You can also have your own list of contacts. So this is more of a detailed list, and add a contact in here. Once you've got your contacts, at the right hand side, you can have a chat with them, send them an email message, start a video call, start an audio call, or more options, add to speed dial. You also get a little pop-up, so all of these options in here, with the addition of having view organisation. And it doesn't exist for that particular user. So going back through to calls, we've got our speed dial calls. So that was generated from our chat groups. You've got your additional contacts, and then you've got your history. And I have to say that on my actual Teams account, my work Teams account, this list is just massive. I make call after call in a day, but like I say, at this moment in time, it's almost like just shouting across the office or asking somebody that you work alongside a quick question. It's just easier to give them a call on Teams than it is even to pick your phone up, enter the code to unlock it, dial them, and then having to hang up. And it's saving those costs as well for mobile calls. Any voicemails that people leave you will obviously be in your voicemail list. Now I'm having an issue with excuse me, with meetings. In my meetings, content has disappeared from the right hand side of my screen there. So I've got a little document here, and I'll happily send this through to you. And it just gives you a little bit more of an idea of meetings and how they look. They're very similar to using meetings in Microsoft Office. Can you see this Word document that I've got in front of me here, which is telling us about meetings in Teams? Yep, good. Thanks, Alison. So when you go into your calendar app at the left hand side, let's make this a little bit bigger, you get your calendar displayed. So you'd use the navigation buttons to move around, and you would simply click on the day at the point in time that you want to create the meeting. The meeting itself is very, very similar to a Microsoft Outlook meeting. And in the information that you fill in. So you need to give it a title. You'd fill in who the required attendees are, and at the side of that, you've got optional attendees. You're going to need to give it a date and a time when the meeting's starting and ending. And if it's a recurring meeting, you can just add the repeat option. If you're wanting this to display in a channel, you can add the channel name in. So if I wanted this to appear in my training channel that we created, the webinars channel, I could put it in there. Your location is either your physical location, or leave it blank if it's just a Teams meeting, and then any additional information that you may want to add in. The meeting itself, if I can just show you the meeting window, very much like Outlook, that you have details. So here's one that we've filled in. And then you have a scheduling assistant. So if you've added 3 people into your meeting, you can have a look at the scheduling assistant just to make sure that that person or those people are free during the meeting time. And then normally you would just basically send the meeting through, and that will appear in the Teams channel if you added one in. If you're wanting to edit a meeting, simply go to your calendar and click on it and it will open up for you. And if you want to join a meeting, go to your calendar, click on it and press join. So when you join a team meeting, so let's say you press the join button, here's the window that pops up. So before you, if you're waiting in the lobby, as they say, before you join the meeting, you have the opportunity in here to switch your webcam on or off and switch your audio on or off. Then when you're ready, press join now. And that's it. The same toolbar comes up as it was for your audio and for your video calls. And I apologise about this. Like I say, technical issues happen. When you're working in your calendar, there is also, sorry, let me scroll back up. If you don't want to go through the process of actually adding in a meeting with a date and a time, in your calendar there is a button at the top right hand corner there that just says meet now, and that's it. You're creating an instant meeting and adding people in immediately. And one last thing I want to show you for today in Teams is working collaboratively on files. So if I'm going to go back to my Teams, I want to share a file with my webinars team. And there's two things I can do here. From my webinars team, I can simply add an attachment. Wait for that document to load and send. Alternatively, so that now is available for this whole team working together. Alternatively, if I have a look at my Files tab within the channel that I'm working in, I can create a new document or upload an existing file or even an existing folder to work collaboratively with. So I'm going to upload a file. So the beans appeared in there now. We'll have beans and fish pie, I think. That's all I've been doing in this lockdown, is either eating food or thinking about what I'm going to eat next. So we have our two files in here that we can work collaboratively with. Everybody else in the team will also be able to see them. And what's fantastic about working in Teams and OneDrive and SharePoint is that, like I say, you can work collaboratively on files. We did this a session yesterday on Keep Your Head in the Clouds, and that's all about collaborative working on files. So if I simply click on Beans, and maybe choose to edit the document, we do get a watered down version of Microsoft Word. So the toolbar at the top of the screen, when it loads, it will look familiar to you. There'll be some tools on there like bold, italic and underline that you can use. It's taking its sweet time to load up here, and if there's other people working in the document at the same time, you'll be able to see their icon at the top of the screen, and you'll also be able to see the changes that you make in time. So any changes that you make, any of the other editors will see, and vice versa. Okay. So I can see that, oh, I'm editing the document, am I? Just on this other screen, just trying to make a small change. So it shows you who's made the change, and you can see the changes immediately in front of you. When you're done, close out the file, and I've finished viewing it, so I'm just going to close the view. So when you're working in Teams, in the channel, make sure you've got files selected and you can see all the files that that particular team are working with and sharing with. The Files tab at the left, it gives you a summary of the files that you've been working with, either recent ones within Teams, or even OneDrive. Just one thing I should say, if I can go back to Teams, just top like last word if you like. Teams is actually driven by SharePoint. So each team has a SharePoint backend, if you like. When you create a new team within Microsoft Teams, so I created this training team earlier, a new SharePoint site with that name will have automatically have been created. Each time you create a channel within the team, a new document library or new folder, if you like, will be available also within that SharePoint site. Any changes that you make within the team, update SharePoint. So you can access your files from SharePoint or from Teams. And the reason you might want to use SharePoint is Teams is sort of like working on files that are in the here and now. So you're wanting to work with them now, get them done, send them out, and then they're done. Whereas SharePoint is a little bit like an alternative to using network drives, but you don't have to log on with a VPN. You can just open it up in a web browser and have a look at the files that you have stored in there. And if I want to just quickly from this webinars, for example, in the top right hand corner, more options and opening SharePoint. So whether you like SharePoint or not, it's there, and that's what it uses to drive Teams. In a second it will open up. So this SharePoint site, in document webinars, you can see the documents that I've added in. The site is called Training Team, which is what I call the team. And we could use this then long term, like I say, instead of using your S drive or your T drive to store files, you could store them in SharePoint and everybody can work on them collaboratively. And I think from what we set out to do today, just to have a look at using the chat tools, using the conversations, having a look at files, audio, video calls, the tools that you have when you're in those calls and meetings, I think we're pretty much done. Unless, has anybody got any questions? I think there are some questions. Can only people in the team access the SharePoint area? That's a really good question. In this top right hand corner, there are 3 members of this SharePoint site. I added 3 members into the team, and those 3 members will have access to the SharePoint site. If anybody else needs access, they'd have to request it from the owner, if you like, from me. You've obviously got your administrators, they can go in and do various different things, but no, as a whole, the SharePoint site, the members of the team and the SharePoint site are the same. Is it secure? Absolutely, it's Microsoft. So just trust in Microsoft, and also your own servers as well. When you're setting up Teams, there's quite stringent security settings, and as you've seen within Teams, if you haven't got permission, you can't do it. You just don't get to see it. So Liz is asking how I would listen back to the recorded meeting. So once you've recorded a meeting, once you've ended the meeting, it will save it and it will give you a prompt as to where that recording is saved, and then you can just make it accessible within the team and everybody can play it back. What else we got? There's quite a few questions in with the different places that you're working today and the weather that you've got. So I think what I'll do is I'll end the webinar now. I will take all these questions, put them into sort of a logical format with answers, and I'll email them all through to you. So the webinar recording will be on our website. Please do, when I end this webinar, just take a second or two, if you wouldn't mind, just to let me know your thoughts and any feedback that you've got for the webinars and anything that we can help you with going forward. So I hope you all stay safe and well. I hope to see you on future webinars. Thank you again for attending, and see you again soon. Bye.